The ugly truth about narcissistic abuse that nobody talks about is that it alters your brain. It doesn't just leave emotional scars. It physically changes the way you think, react, and even see yourself. Over time, the constant gaslighting, guilt-tripping, and manipulation can reprogram your mind to live in a state of fear, self-doubt, and hypervigilance. The good news is that healing is possible. But first, you need to understand what's happening inside your head. Today, we'll dive into how narcissistic abuse rewires your brain. Scary but true. Are you ready for number 1? You struggle with emotional flashbacks. Why does a simple comment or a certain look send you into a spiral? That's the unsettling reality of emotional flashbacks. They hit you out of nowhere, dragging you back into past trauma like it's happening all over again. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk, author of The Body Keeps the Score, explains that trauma is not just a story about the past. It is the imprint of that pain on your body and brain. Your nervous system, trained by narcissistic abuse, doesn't distinguish between past and present. So when someone raises their voice, gives you the silent treatment, or even just criticizes you in a certain tone, your brain reacts as if you're back in that toxic environment, frozen, panicked, or flooded with shame. It's not a logical reaction. It's a survival instinct that got hardwired into you over time. Healing from this isn't about just getting over it. It's about retraining your brain to recognize that you're no longer trapped. Mindfulness, therapy, and self-awareness can help you break the cycle, reminding you that the past doesn't own you anymore. The flashbacks may come, but they don't have to define you. Let's talk about number 2. You develop a guilt complex. Have you ever felt guilty for things that aren't even your fault? That's the damage narcissistic abuse leaves behind. When someone constantly blames you for their anger, sadness, or failures, your brain starts to believe that keeping them happy is your responsibility. Dr. Harriet Breaker, author of The Disease to Please, explains that chronic guilt is often a learned response from emotional manipulation, making people believe that setting boundaries is selfish. Over time, you become hyper-aware of other people's moods, over-apologizing for things you didn't do, and feeling like a terrible person anytime you put yourself first. Even when the narcissist is gone, the guilt stays, whispering in your ear that prioritizing yourself is wrong. Healing starts when you realize that guilt isn't proof you've done something wrong. It's just a leftover response from being conditioned to feel responsible for someone else's happiness. And the more you remind yourself of that, the freer you become. Let's move on to number 3. Oxytocin betrays you. What if the very thing that's supposed to make you feel safe is actually keeping you stuck? That's the cruel trick narcissistic abuse plays on your brain. Oxytocin, the so-called love hormone, turns against you. Normally, oxytocin helps you bond, trust, and feel connected. But when your deepest bonds have been with someone who manipulated, gaslit, and hurt you, your brain starts to link love with anxiety. Dr. Patrick Carnes, an expert in trauma bonding, explains that when intermittent reinforcement is combined with intense emotional experiences, the brain confuses love with survival. This is why stable, healthy relationships might seem boring or even wrong to you, while toxic, unpredictable ones feel exciting. Your brain craves the highs and lows because that's what it learned to expect. But here's the truth. Love isn't supposed to feel like a roller coaster. Breaking free means retraining your brain to recognize calm, steady affection as real love, not a trap. At first, the predictability of a healthy relationship might feel uncomfortable, but over time, you'll realize that love isn't supposed to hurt. It's supposed to heal. Now, let's continue to number 4. You lose your sense of identity. When you spend so much time molding yourself to fit someone else's expectations, your own identity starts to fade. Over time, you stop trusting your own opinions, likes, and even emotions because you've been trained to believe they don't matter. Or worse, that they're wrong. Dr. Carol McBride, a leading expert on narcissistic abuse recovery, calls this the false self syndrome, where you've spent so long being who the narcissist wanted you to be that you no longer know who you are. But here's the good news. Your real self is still there, buried under years of conditioning. Healing starts with small steps, asking yourself what you want and what you enjoy, and learning to trust your voice again. At first, it might feel uncomfortable, but with time, you'll realize that you don't need permission to be yourself. You just need to reclaim what was yours all along. You shouldn't miss number 5. Your dopamine system gets hijacked. Narcissists manipulate your brain's dopamine system using intermittent reinforcement, randomly switching between love and cruelty to keep you craving their approval. Dr. Helen Fisher, a neuroscientist who studies love and addiction, explains that dopamine is the chemical of reward and motivation. It's what makes you chase what you desire, even when it hurts you. Just like a gambler keeps playing because the next win might be around the corner, you stay in the toxic cycle, hoping for the next moment of kindness. Your brain, flooded with dopamine during rare good times, convinces you that the highs outweigh the lows, even when deep down, you know they don't. But just like breaking any addiction, healing is about rewiring your brain to seek fulfillment without the chaos. The real reward? Freedom from a cycle that was never meant to make you happy, just to keep you hooked. Are you still up for number 6? You struggle with decision paralysis. Narcissistic abuse trains your brain to believe that every decision comes with a hidden trap. When you've been constantly criticized, second-guessed, or even punished for making the wrong choice, your nervous system starts associating decisions with fear. Dr. Caroline Leaf, a cognitive neuroscientist, explains that chronic stress rewires the brain to expect negative outcomes, making even small decisions feel paralyzing. You become stuck in overthinking mode, analyzing every possible consequence, not because the choice itself is difficult, but because your brain is bracing for backlash. The problem is, this habit doesn't just disappear when the narcissist is gone. You might find yourself obsessing over tiny details, asking others for reassurance, or avoiding decisions altogether just to escape the anxiety. The good news is that your brain can unlearn this fear. Healing starts with reminding yourself that you are in control now, and that no one is waiting to punish you for making a choice. The more you practice making small decisions without guilt, the easier it becomes to trust yourself again. Moving on to number 7. You become highly sensitive to tone and micro-expressions. A slight change in someone's tone feels like a warning siren for narcissistic abuse victims. Narcissistic abuse trains your brain to be hyper-aware of danger. When you've lived with someone whose moods could flip in an instant, You learn to pick up on the smallest shifts in their voice, facial expression, or body language. This level of hyper-awareness doesn't just shut off when the narcissist is gone. You might find yourself overanalyzing text messages, replaying conversations in your head, or feeling anxious when someone's tone shifts slightly. Social interactions become exhausting because your brain is working overtime to decode every little detail, trying to predict an attack that may never come. Trauma expert Dr. Janina Fisher calls this faulty neuroception, where your brain sees threats where there are none because it's been wired to expect them. But here's the truth. Not every sigh means someone is mad at you, and not every pause means rejection. Healing starts when you remind yourself that you're safe now, and that not every expression hides a storm. Finally, we're down to number 8. Your brain becomes wired for learned helplessness. When you've been repeatedly dismissed, manipulated, or punished for asserting yourself, your brain starts to associate effort with failure. Dr. Martin Seligman, the psychologist who coined the term learned helplessness, explains that when people repeatedly experience situations where they feel powerless, they stop trying, even when escape is possible. Over time, you internalize the idea that no matter what you do, the outcome will be the same. This is why you might stay in toxic relationships, tolerate abusive workplaces, or avoid taking risks. You've been trained to believe that nothing you do will make a difference. This mindset doesn't just keep you stuck, it makes you doubt yourself in every aspect of life. Even when new opportunities appear, you might hesitate. But here's the truth: that feeling of powerlessness is a lie. It was programmed into you by someone who wanted you to feel weak. Healing begins when you take small steps, setting a boundary, choosing for yourself, or even just challenging the belief that you're stuck. Narcissistic abuse doesn't just hurt your feelings, and it's not just in your head, it's in your nervous system. But here's the good news: your brain can heal. Just like it adapted to the chaos, it can rewire itself for peace, confidence, and trust again. It takes time, boundaries, and a lot of self-compassion, but recovery is possible. The moment you start choosing your peace, your truth, and your healing is the moment the damage starts to undo itself. And that's when you finally get your mind and your life back.